Hi, I'm Liz Cully, and welcome to a special episode of Cool, Cool, Cool. In this series of episodes, I chat with cool people about parenthood. From my fears of getting pregnant to selecting a donor to how to juggle a career and a family, we talk about it all, and nothing is off limits. I was looking for a podcast that represented more of what I experience in the world, and I couldn't find it, so naturally, I decided to make it myself. So, welcome to, I guess, an adult version of Cool, Cool, Cool. I vividly remember getting extremely nauseous, flush, sweating, and removing myself from the classroom when we were watching A Miracle of Life. I really think I was in 6th grade, and I was like, this is a lot of liquid and blood, and it was just like a baby crowning, hairy vagina, like couldn't do it. Really can't. I have said, and the reason why I wanted to start this series is I have said from the jump, being pregnant doesn't seem scary. It's the physical birth that freaks me out. I was connected to Marea Goodman, who is a midwife, parent, founder of Pregnant Together, which is a virtual community for queer folks, solo parents, and everybody else who is in their process of becoming a parent, both pre-pregnancy, postpartum, and during parenting. Marea, well, we talk about, what it is to be a midwife, doula, their journey as a parent, but also not only the fear that that the Miracle of Life instilled in me, but then Ricky Lake's documentary, I believe it's The Business of Giving Birth or The Business of Getting Pregnant. Also, I will say this. I did not go to the Queer Tea Awards last week because I was so tired. I was literally on death's door and I had to listen to my body because I am trying to get pregnant and calm the fuck down. And I was like, I gotta go to these awards because Rosie O'Donnell's gonna be there and so is Ricky Lake. And I feel like Ricky Lake and we are circling each other. Ricky Lake, if you are listening to this, please come on this podcast. I'm desperate to talk to you. Back to Marea. Marea is lovely. We were connected on the internet, but then I found out that I've had folks and friends work with Marea in the past. They are so knowledgeable, kind, and really dealt with my immature fear of giving birth, specifically giving birth in a pool. Like, you guys do what you want to do, but for some reason, the pool thing, I love being in a pool. One would think, go to your favorite place to have a baby. I'm like, no, don't ruin it. Keep that pool for me, Anyway, enjoy this episode. Marea has been so kind and is offering our listeners access to their community, links, and information in the show notes. Because I do think when you create a community around you of like-minded folks or around people that understand what you're going through, it really, really can help the journey. And who knows, maybe I'll come around about having a baby in a pool. You think you're in sync with someone until you start talking about baby names. Like, Who did I marry? We're getting divorced. Psychotic names.
Over the names. Yeah, totally.
Unbelievably strange.
Yes.
And, I'm like, wow. It was actually, we were in the Bay Area this past weekend with my aunt who, it's amazing. I mean, my cousin is adopted. My aunt has been very forthcoming with sort of the struggles that she had back in the 80s when obviously care was very, very different. We didn't have a lot of the language that we have now. And I think the technology, there was it was a lot different. So we were talking quite about a lot of serious stuff that you don't necessarily talk to your family members about. I don't know, when you're a kid, it just doesn't come up. But when we got to the baby names, everyone was like, you guys are freaks. Everyone liked my names. Rachel, not so much.
It'll be a negotiation. Yeah.
I mean, it'll be a negotiation. Though my name was different on my birth certificate. And then my father crossed it out and changed it.
Interesting. I've heard that. happens to people. They get cold feet about a certain name and then they go with something else. You're not the
Yeah,
first
well,
person
the
told me that.
Kardashians keep naming their children different things, so I suppose,
Yeah,
I feel like you also kind of have to meet someone, but who am I? I don't know?
totally. That's one thing I like about home birth is because the process for filing the birth certificate takes longer than when you give birth at a hospital. Like people just have more time. Like they don't necessarily need to file that official name for, they don't have to decide until a couple weeks or whatever. Some
That's
folks take a
actually
long time.
a
Yeah.
great place to start because I loosely called this special series of Cool, 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 I'm Scared to Have a Baby. Now, I was a nanny for over 10 years. If there is a child in a store or on the streets, it will find me. It will make eye contact with me. It will love me. I am one of those people. I like children, generally speaking, until they're annoying and bad, but like who isn't? But you are a midwife, you are so many things you've created Pregnant Together, a platform which is really, really exciting. Tell me a little bit about like how you got into this world, and then I can unload all of my fears about home birth on you.
Great. We can totally get into it. Sounds like a plan.
Yeah, you're like, I'm so excited to talk to you about that.
It's a common conversation. I'm super down to get into it. So I attended my first birth in 2011. I got invited to a friend's birth who was planning a home birth. And
what does that invitation look like? Like, be here cocktails beforehand at 5? Like, that was a joke.
She was like,
but
hey, yeah, she invited me to come as her support person. I don't remember if I like offered or she was just like, hey, like I feel connected to you. Do you want to be there? And I said yes. And I did a doula training to just like get a little bit more prepared. And when she had this beautiful home birth, it was a Sunday. I remember it perfectly. She called me at 10 a.m. The baby was born at 4 p.m. It was like the most idyllic, beautiful experience.
And were you working in healthcare before you were asked to attend?
I was a senior in college at the time.
Got it.
I was a senior in college. I was 22, maybe 21. And I was like, oh, this is what I want to be doing. I was like studying gender and women's studies.
Sure.
And I just thought something so powerful. I've always just been into like human animalness, if that makes sense. Like something about like the ways that our bodies were, demystifying healthcare, like really understanding ourselves and our bodies in deep ways. And then, feminism and bodily autonomy. And it just like fit. And I ended up taking doula clients for a year. My second birth ever was a 5-day long labor.
No.
It was pretty
at home, or did you end up having to go to the hospital?
No. That person was planning a hospital birth. But I remember we went, and I didn't really know a lot
what you know now
at the time.
Yes.
Did not know what I know now. But we'd go in, they'd be like, oh, you're still 1 centimeter, 2 centimeters, and come back. And I still wanted to do birth work after that experience. So I figured that was sort of like this initiation, like, okay, if you still want to attend births after this 5-day long labor, probably this is something that makes sense.
Was the baby and everybody okay?
Yeah, everyone was okay. Sometimes it's unusual. Sometimes it does take that long to have a baby.
No.
On average, for first-time birthers, it takes 24 hours.
No, thank you. No, thanks.
Yeah.
I was an hour and a half of labor. I was
are you first baby?
Second.
Second.
I was like, this bitch is nuts. Get me out. I was early. Yeah. I was like, nah, this ain't
you were ready.
Yeah. I was like, no,
to join the world.
Yeah. I got things to do,
Yeah.
Wow. Totally. 5 days. Where was that?
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't in LA because, I was like, no way.
Berkeley, California, hospital birth. Yeah. It does happen. People have, I've attended plenty other 5-day long labors since then. I had a 48-hour labor myself, and that was a home birth. And you can watch it on Instagram if you want to. It's on my Instagram.
We can talk about that. I'm too scared. Ricky Lake, if you're listening, and Ricky Lake and I are like barely separated by one person and I'm dying.
Mhm.
Obviously, she really put home birth like to the front center of culture far
Mhm.
long before anybody else. And I just remember being like literally terrified. I think it's what the business of birth is it's called. I mean, I
The
was just
business of being born.
the business of being born. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry,
Yes.
Marea. Keep going. Keep going. I'm so interested
Well,
here.
no,
Okay.
I mean, there's so many things to talk about, but what I will say, as someone who's been a home birth midwife for over 10 years, I got licensed in 2015 and it was a 3-year training program. And someone who like had an unmedicated home birth, especially after going through labor myself, I'm like, anybody who wants an epidural and that whole hospital birth experience, like all power to you. Giving birth is really hard. It's really intense. And like for me, it felt really empowering and wonderful to be in my own home and to do that in the way that
Sure.
felt aligned with my values. And like I will never judge anyone for making the choice that's right for them. And I feel like that's like a common theme in my work in general, in all the different ways that I work, is like I just believe we all deserve information about our bodies and our healthcare and our babies and our fertility that like will inform the decisions that we make. And from there, like we are in charge of what happens in our bodies. And that's what I hope to like be offering folks through the community and through my midwifery work.
What's your favorite part now that you've been doing it for 10 years? You had your experience of being a college student, which is insane, and just casually attending your friend's birth. I mean, not casually, you obviously got the doula training, but then going on to, a 5-day birth. Obviously, you've been through so much now. You've helped so many families. What is your favorite part about the process? Like, is it when the baby comes out and everybody's good? And I mean, that's kind of that moment, or is there something unexpected that you love?
I love seeing people be like so fucking proud of themselves afterwards,
That's
after giving birth.
That's real. Yeah.
Like in whatever way, whether it's, whether it's they have to have a C-section for whatever reason. And it's like, or it's this, 48 or 72 hour, like physically draining birth or a 2-hour labor. Like no matter what birth looks like, it challenges us in really deep and unexpected ways. And I love seeing people afterwards be like, holy shit, I just did that. I got through it. I didn't think I could. And I did.
Yeah.
And that's the part that I love, along with like, with that experience, seeing people become parents. Like I can actually see, if you're having your first baby, often I can see this like very subtle but clear transformation that folks go through when they have their baby on the outside. And it's like, oh shit, like now I'm a parent, and their face change. Like it's a spiritual transformation. And it's just such an honor to get to see people go through that and be
That's
there with
awesome.
them.
Yeah, I'm worried because I have like extreme road rage. I am out here in these streets, like, allegedly about to kill a motherfucker. I'm like, anyone come near my dog, my wife, I'm like, I'm going to just go out of control. So I, should this all work out and I become a parent, I worry for anyone that tries me on the wrong day, Marea, because you never know, I have deep rage.
Yeah.
It might soften. Who knows? Or it might get worse.
You never know how parenting will change you. But I think it's an awesome quality to have like mama bear protection instincts, like that's powerful. That's great.
Yeah.
May we all have some of that.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I love that you also support parenting from a holistic perspective and also like definitely for the queer community. Why I wanted to start this, and while I have a lot of, I think, resources, information at my fingertips, which is quite a privileged place to be in. I know that. And I think, I also am not shy at asking questions or investigating if somebody is open to me reaching out to them. That's just sort of my nature. I was so happy when you reached out to me, and it sounds like we have people in common, which I love, because no one really can prepare you truly, I think, as a queer couple for the family, like experience. Like everybody has their own, what I've learned is a lot of people have very specific in their own experiences, and there's a lot of information, and people, want to, I think in a very kind way, but want to bestow a lot of information on you. And it can become very overwhelming. Like even where to get sperm. Like it took us forever to pick our sperm donor. Do you know what I mean? And I was lucky because I had the help to figure out how to do that. But then, you meet someone and they're like, oh, I would never go there. I would go here. And you're like, oh my fucking God. You know what I mean? It's a lot. When did you start your platform Pregnant Together? And why did you start that?
I started Pregnant Together last year in February 2023. It was 2 months before the book that I co-wrote with another queer midwife, Baby Making for Everybody, was published. And they're kind of like tandem projects in some ways, and we wrote this book because at the time when we decided to write it, there hadn't been a book about queer family formation written in the last 20 years. And so, there is another one that came out a year before ours did. And our communities, people were just like trying to do so much of their own research, but not having a central place to really figure out what are your choices for finding a donor? How do you do that? How much does it cost? How can you get it covered? What are the insemination methods? Like just laying out all of these choices from like the legal stuff and the emotional stuff and the logistics and the finances. Like it's a lot of information to sort through. And so we wanted to create this book. And then from having all of the information in this place, like one thing that we kept coming back to in the book is just like this need for community. And this very profound feeling that I think everyone in our culture, in our Western world experiences to some extent, but I think especially queer folks and solo parents who are trying to grow their families, is people just don't feel connected to others during this process. Like there's still this feeling as a queer couple that like we're sort of creating this new family structure, whereas like in reality there's so many of us all over the world and forever growing our families in creative ways. But I really wanted to create a space where we could come together and connect with each other, and people could be like, hey, like how did you decide between this medication and this medication, or like what was your process in finding a known donor, and really just like sharing about all these nuanced experiences of growing our families in these ways and not feeling alone in it. And I just deeply feel like that isolation piece is like one of the hardest things on our mental health.
It's hard. It's also, I think like I was saying, everybody sort of has a different either approach or circumstance than other people. I mean, even if you look at the configuration of the queer family, like what that looks like, some folks have medical issues, some, I think sometimes people have the idea like, oh, well, it's, two female identifying folks with uteruses, like that'll be great and easy. And then it's like, well, no, like maybe one person doesn't feel comfortable carrying or doesn't want to or can't or whatever, or like has it,
or both people want to carry at the same time. And what does that mean?
That seems fucking psychotic. I can just tell you this. The amount of tampons that we go through in this household, I went to Costco for the first time in my life. 10 out of 10. Don't recommend, actually.
Oh, wow.
You've
love
never
Costco? Been to Costco? I mean, no. I have 3 kids, so I love Costco.
Oh, you have to go to Costco. That's what I'm saying. I think things will change. Everything I wanted to buy, Rachel said I couldn't buy. A deep freezer for the garage, $129.
You need a deep freezer when you have a child. For the postpartum, you need one. Yes.
Well, I just need one for ice cream. So I was just like, oh my God, we should buy this. And she's like, no. I'm like, oh, this shampoo. She's like, no. I'm like, okay, fine. Well, and then you get like crazy in there. All of a sudden I'm like, oh, there's a 4-pound bag of boneless buffalo chicken bites. I must have this. She's like,
and then you need the deep freezer to keep it.
But also she's like, you don't even eat like that. I'm like, yes, I do. You know what I mean? It's like so unhinged. I just felt like very, very wild in that situation. I don't even know why I'm still like on the high of Costco. I can't even believe it. Look, I have the receipt right here. Can't even believe it. Like, what is going on in that place? Anyway, but the one thing that I found very, very helpful in Costco was 96 tampons for $15. I was like, okay, we go through a lot of tampons. So the idea of both of us being pregnant, we have never in the 10 years of us being together really synced on our periods, only here and there. Now we're sort of syncing. And it's terrible. It's just like emotions everywhere. Everyone's angry.
Yes.
Everyone's hungry. It's unhinged. So I don't know, for my family unit, both of us being pregnant at the same time would be unmanageable, I would say, at best. Ravioli, my dog, would probably try to get rehomed. She'd be out of here in a heartbeat. But in all seriousness, yes, it like looks so different. And I think for me, it's just been like one, finding a doctor was tough. Like, we went somewhere and it's not that they weren't LGBTQIA friendly, but it was just very, my wife is more like masculine of center. And so it was just like, obviously you know what I mean? I'm like, okay, well, you shouldn't, I don't know, just like little things where I'm like, what the fuck, or paperwork where they're like, you can't get an appointment until both of you go do this blood work. And I'm like, well, respectfully, she doesn't need to go do the blood work. I do. Right. Or how do you find a donor? What do you think about them? All the genetic testing. I'm in this horrible spot where I like got weird testing and I don't know what it means, and like the insurance bit. So I really love that, in tandem with this book, you created a digital platform for folks to come together, but also seek advice from you. And I'm sure your constituents, or maybe it's just you probably. You're like a one person shop over here.
It's just me. I have a couple people like who sometimes help me on the tech side of things, but
you're running the show here. And also I think it can be, again, you're in Northern California where I'm from. I'm in Southern California. I think other states, obviously what we're seeing with the attack on embryo, which is psychotic. I mean,
psychotic. You believe it's.
I can believe it, actually. I can. I actually can believe it. But, and I think for me in other areas of my life, the more I've talked about hardships or talked about things that are uncomfortable or maybe that I feel embarrassed about, it's completely released a lot of the power that it's had over me. Do you find that your community on Pregnant Together also that can kind of be the sentiment after people are sharing and meeting each other and talking to you?
So much. Yeah, I feel like it really relieves a huge burden for folks on so many levels, whether it's like the informational piece of like, we have a donor who lives across the country and like, how do we set up a directed donor account at a sperm bank, or just like, I did my first insemination and I'm having a really hard time not taking a pregnancy test every 12 hours. Like that 2-week wait experience is really hard. And I feel like just that act of posting that, sharing that, getting other folks who are like, oh my gosh, yes, like I binge watched this show during my 2-week wait or whatever it is, connecting around that. I think it really does help. And I especially see, yes, we're very privileged to live in California. The laws here are very friendly towards queer families. There are certain states where it's easier to grow our families than others. And I'm really seeing my community members that live in Montana or Utah, or there are certain places where there's like one IUI provider in the entire state, or like that no one really has a sense of how to work with solo parents or queer couples, because the entire fertility industry is based on supporting heterosexual couples that are experiencing infertility and not on supporting folks who are in queer relationships or not in a relationship who want to or need to access those services without having access to sperm in their relationship. So it's like fitting a square peg in a round hole. Like it just doesn't match.
Well, and it's interesting in the sense that, I have a friend and also a listener to this show who was like, dude, I'm a single heterosexual woman, but, I want a child now, and ended up like using this show as a resource, which was such an incredible feeling. I'm like, oh amazing, because I think we also put a lot of onus on, regardless if it's in a queer relationship or not, a lot of onus of infertility goes to those with a uterus and potentially, ovaries and what have you. So,
right.
And that's not always the case. You know what I mean? Like, there is definitely male infertility. Like, hello,
50% of the time. Like,
and not a lot of people talk about that. And so it does feel like there's a lot of options that are now discussed more than ever, but then also just like an incredibly paralyzing amount of information to shift through. Like, I'm dealing with the whole insurance of it all. And I'm like, dude, this is like, I don't even know what we're talking about anymore. You know what I mean? I'm just like, oh God.
The insurance system that's like a whole, it's wild. I can't even.
Starting a family is truly one of the biggest adventures in a lifetime and can feel like a daunting task for many of us. I just learned about an amazing company called Seed Scout, who are kind enough to be sponsoring this episode. Seed Scout specializes in connecting aspiring parents with known sperm donors who are ready to help them embark on their parenthood journey. The best part is that you can rest assured knowing that each donor can only donate to a maximum of 3 families, ensuring a personalized and meaningful experience for everyone involved. So what sets Seed Scout apart? They believe in transparency, donors are over 24 years of age, they provide annual updates about your donor's medical history, they are gay donor friendly, and they offer the unique opportunity to meet your donor beforehand, fostering a genuine connection and trust before making any decisions. Ready to take the next step towards building your dream family? Head over to seedscout.com today to learn more and start your journey to parenthood with the support that you deserve. Okay, I want to talk about home birth because I'm terrified.
Yes.
This is what I imagine. Okay.
And
someone says home birth, I'm thinking a inflatable tub in the middle of the bathroom. I'm seeing water. I'm seeing screaming. I'm seeing people like rubbing people's back. I'm seeing everyone kind of being like moving around, and then hopefully a lovely baby. And then you're just sitting in your living room in an inflatable tub in birth. That's what I imagine. How accurate is that?
Not so inaccurate for people who have their babies in the birth tub.
Do you have to use that birth tub?
No, not at all. You can give birth wherever you want. That's what's awesome about home birth is like all of the stuff that we bring is portable. I like to say that we bring everything that they have in the hospital except for an epidural in an operating room. So we bring the same medications that they use, IV supplies, different equipment to support the baby's first breaths. We bring lots of different things, suturing supplies.
What's up with the pool? Let's talk about the pool.
Let's talk about the pool.
For some reason, the pool is traumatic for me. I don't know why. Should I blame Ricky Lake? I could blame Ricky Lake. I don't know who.
Yeah, I remember that water birth scene in the tub.
But she was in her ceramic tub.
Yes. So you're okay with the ceramic tub, but
no, neither. Quite frankly, neither.
Okay.
Because I'm also like, I remember when like water births were becoming so, I don't know how old you are, but I'm 38. So I feel as though, and you look very young and spry. So I'm sure I'm elder.
34.
God damn it. Yeah, you look great. This is the future. It's tired. And I don't even have 3 children. So
hey, I have 3 kids. So I spiritually, I feel like I'm like in my 50s. So
fair enough.
We're probably meeting.
We're going to meet somewhere in the middle. Okay. But I just remember in the 90s, it was very zeitgeisty to talk about water births. And I'm like, that makes sense. You're like in the sack swimming around and then you go in right out into the water. I'm a Cancer. I am a swimmer. I played a little water polo in high school. But what are the benefits? I guess we should start there of the water birth.
Yeah. I mean, I've attended lots of water births.
Have
I
you
think
had
there
a
are
water
some
birth?
benefits and some drawbacks. No, I gave birth to my youngest on the floor at the foot of my bed. I was in the
Tight.
water during labor. I did have an inflatable tub, and it can be nice when you're in labor, when you're going through those contractions where you're trying to like soften your body and let your body open and let the baby come through. It can be nice to be in a warm pool of water because it's harder to tense up when you're in some warm water and it's helping you relax.
I don't know why I'm sweating right now. Absolutely sweating. But
Yeah,
sorry,
it
continue.
sounds like the water birth is not for you. And
But who
that's
knew? Because
totally
I'm into
fine.
the water. But anyway, continue with the water birth. Sorry, I'm listening. I have
Yeah.
my
No, it's fine.
listening ears on.
It's fine. There are a lot of hospitals that offer water births now too, because I think because of, some people really want that, and
Ricky
it can be
Lake.
helpful for pain management. Yep. Yeah. Blame Ricky Lake for the water birth craze. I do see, and I felt this myself, I do see for a lot of people that like for the more active part of pushing the baby out, it is actually really nice to like be on a firm surface, have gravity to help you get the baby out. Sometimes folks do give birth in the water, and it can be really lovely because then the baby's in the warm water and they're all just like hanging out.
Just in
But there are
there.
some other things to consider when I talk to my clients about, sometimes it's harder to assess blood loss in the water. And so, there are situations that it's like, okay, you just had your baby, but now we need to get you out of the tub so that I can, help you get your placenta out and things like that. Sometimes placentas just come out in the water too, and they hang out for a little while, but it can sometimes be a little bit more complex in getting out of the tub and getting people dried off and warm. And
It's a lot that you're talking about. Should people eat their placenta?
to each their own. Almost all mammals eat their placentas, which I think is interesting. I have lots of clients that do consume their placenta in some way, either like put some in a smoothie or like get it encapsulated. Do you need a second?
No, I'm good. I'm here. I'm ready. I'm in it. I don't know why smoothie. I have a smoothie every single morning. I don't know why the smoothie. Because I always thought, you grind it up and put it in a pill. It makes sense to me to consume it.
Yeah.
I'm like,
there's lots of iron. There's like, you all of a sudden go through this huge hormonal shift when your body releases the placenta. And so there are people like Chinese medicine practitioners and other folks that are just really like, oh yeah, you need to reintroduce that in a slow way. Some people really like it. Some people don't notice the difference. Some people feel like, this is making me feel weird.
Really?
So I would say it's really personal. Yeah, I've had a few clients who, after they've taken their placenta pills, like weren't able to sleep. Like it just gave them too much energy, or it can occasionally, as your milk is coming in, if you're chest feeding, and like those huge hormonal shifts are really intense around 2 or 3 days postpartum. And sometimes with the placenta pills, I don't know, people just feel overwhelmed
too much
by those hormones. Too much. Yeah.
It's a
lot. I mean, just becoming a parent, learning how to feed your baby, healing from birth physically and emotionally. You're still bleeding, you're sore, you're not sleeping. Like it's a big experience to have a baby. And I talk to all my clients about really setting themselves up well in those first few weeks for community support around themselves.
And what does that look like? I mean, for me, it will be making sure that my mother is as far away from me as humanly possible.
Great. Boundaries around those people are essential. Yeah.
I'm like, leave me all the way alone, please.
Mm-hmm.
Because somehow, somewhere it will become all about her and have nothing to do with Rachel, myself, and a child. But what are other things like you suggest that, are maybe even like your go-to quick tips for postpartum for folks?
Yeah. Well, first of all, what you just said of like protecting your space. So if there are people in your life that are not going to be supportive to you, make sure that they know that they're not welcome to visit until 4 or 6 weeks postpartum. I tell my clients that they're welcome to blame me. There's someone like in their life that they're just, they can be like, oh, well, my midwife said I can't have visitors for the first 4 weeks or whatever it is. I really recommend not having anyone around that you don't feel comfortable crying or pooping in front of, because it's just a very emotional and like physically intense time.
You mean in the room?
In the room. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you might feel okay having a 20-minute visit with someone when you're like relaxed and feeling okay, but like all of a sudden you might get overwhelmed with emotions. Or I remember, and I have a pretty good relationship with my parents, but I remember when my mom came to visit a couple days after my youngest was born, it just sounded like she was yelling and talking so quickly. Like your brain waves literally slow down.
You weren't imagining that. That was happening. I'm here to not it was happening. I'm here to not gaslight you. That was happening.
Yes. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I told her, and she was able to like bring her speed down. But a lot of people don't understand what a huge, profound experience it is. And so my other quick thing is like, don't expect anything from yourself besides resting, feeding the baby, and like getting up to use the bathroom. So, and that goes for if you have a partner as well. So like have a meal train, have people bringing you food, have someone, that you trust that can come do your laundry. Like you're just going to be so exhausted. And like, if the only job that you have is resting and bonding with and feeding your baby, like your mental health experience is going to be so much better than it would if you were expecting yourself after a week or two to be able to like host a party, or God forbid, like go grab something at Target, which people do. Like stay home, save your energy.
No Costco.
Don't expect anything from yourself. Don't go to Costco, at least the first 6 weeks. I love the book, The First 40 Days. It's really, really a wonderful book for preparing for the postpartum. And just talks about how in almost all cultures around the world since the beginning of time, there's a practice of resting in the postpartum. And we really don't have that in our modern Western world. And so creating something around us, with community or family where people are really supporting this bubble of yours makes such a difference.
Honestly, having someone come and do my laundry, feed me, and let me rest is something that I just want to do right now. So I can't imagine how I'll feel if it all shakes out. What exactly, okay, so here I am, I'm, trying to get pregnant. When does one talk to a midwife? Like what is that relationship? What does that look like? Explain to me if you don't mind.
Yeah. I mean, so for me, as someone who works a lot with like the queer and solo parent community, I work with folks from the beginning. And so I've actually started offering a coaching program where I like walk folks through this process from choosing a donor to figuring out what insemination method makes sense to start with, and like navigating this whole process. So there are folks, myself included, that like will be a part of your care team from the very beginning. And then it's when they live in my town, I can also, if they want to have an out-of-hospital birth and an out-of-hospital provider, I can then transition into supporting them through the pregnancy and birth and postpartum. And there's a big range. Like sometimes people contact me at 6 weeks of pregnancy, meaning 2 weeks after they get a positive test. And I've also been contacted at 37 weeks, like, I've changed my mind. I don't want to have a hospital birth. Like, are you still taking clients? And if the relationship is right and the vibe is right, I'll consider working with those folks too. So much of the midwifery relationship is about trust and like the actual relationship, which I think is just a very different framework than what we're used to in the Western medical world, where we go to the doctor and maybe we have 5 or 10 minutes with them, but it's not at all like a personal relationship.
Right.
In midwifery care, it's this very non-hierarchical relationship where we get to know each other. I get to know your family really well and what you want, and provide you with all of these options, and you're in charge of making your decisions. And then obviously I also have the training to identify things if they go outside of the realm of normal, because we only do out-of-hospital birth for low risk, normal pregnancies and birth. And if anything gets more complicated, we transfer to the hospital or refer to an OB or someone who is more trained in handling higher complications
Sure.
or higher rates of more complicated situations medically. So I'm losing my train of thought, but
It sounds great. I'm like, please babysit me through this experience.
Yes,
It sounds
exactly.
like you're the most wonderful family sitter and
Thanks.
creator.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love
I
it.
mean,
I actually love
it's
it. It's like, please come and take care of me. It sounds
totally,
wonderful.
totally. Yeah. I mean, we need each other, we need each other to go through this, like from every stage and then like becoming a parent and how that changes us. And when we're trying to do it all alone, it's just so much harder.
It is really hard. I think, and especially if, you're queer and your family or your parent, like a lot of people, I think I see a
Mm-hmm.
lot of my heterosexual friends taking for granted. I'll say it right here, right now. It's my show. Taking for granted how much their parents or their, family of origin supports them and takes care of them, because it's not
Mm-hmm.
that way for a lot of people, regardless of your, financial situation or whatever it might, or wherever you live. I
Mm-hmm.
think some people would be like, oh, like, Liz is this like crazy person on the internet who lives in California, who's born and raised in San Francisco. But that doesn't necessarily mean my parents like ask questions. And when they do, they're not like flippant or like uneducated and have no interest in, you know what I mean? It's like there's
Mm-hmm.
actually all these different layers. I was joking with someone recently. I'm like, I should just start, like, how on Jimmy Kimmel he'll have like celebrities read horrible tweets about themselves. I should
Yeah.
just read the fucking stupid questions that people ask me, family or
Mm-hmm.
not, where it's like, how does it work? It's like, oh God. Or like, what is IUI? I'm like, do you know how many heterosexual couples have to do IUI or IVF? Like, this is the
Mm-hmm.
stupidest thing. Like, you're asking me dumb stuff.
Yeah.
But I think,
Totally.
you know what I mean? And you're just like, dude,
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to navigate care, affirmative care, safe care, as you mentioned, like insurance or lack thereof. If I want to have a home birth, getting education around, home birth, and if that's right for you, whatever. The pool, we've worked out the pool, all
Not
of
gonna have a
these.
pool.
I don't know if I'm gonna have a pool. But what's so
Yeah.
funny is like all I want to do is be in the pool. Like if I'm ever sick or I'm upset or I'm sad or like perhaps allegedly I'm on some sort of drug that I don't want to be on anymore, it's always the pool. It's the pool, it's the pool, it's
Yes.
the pool.
Right.
So
Right.
maybe, Marea, things will change with my
Liz, they have
vibe.
not inflatable birth pools. They have like firm birth pools that have a
No,
heater in them.
it doesn't matter.
No.
It really, the
Okay.
vessel
Okay.
of which
Okay.
the pool
Great.
water is being held does not. I'll go into a kiddie pool all day long, but I don't
Okay.
know. I don't know why I'm just like, huh, huh. I have been known to say no and then need time and move into things. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. I understand.
Mustard. We've had a long journey. I
Yeah.
am just I still don't want to have raw mustard on anything. In
Mm-hmm.
things in a marinade, I'm good with. You know?
Okay. You're warming up to mustard.
I'm just saying, you got to give me
Yeah.
my space and my time. But
I respect it.
what would you say for any young queer couple that's like, okay, we're going to dive into this? What would you say when they get to Pregnant Together, what they can expect either from the book or from the platform that you've created?
Yeah, I mean, you'll get to be around so many other folks that are in the exact same boat. We have people that are like, I want to grow my family in a year or two, and I'm just gathering information, and then we have folks who have been in there trying to conceive process for a while. We have monthly groups for people who are trying to conceive. We meet with non-gestational parents every month because that's a whole other thing in a queer relationship. The non-gestational parent often gets really overlooked. So I'm super passionate as a non-gestational parent myself to create that space for our experiences. we have specific groups for solo parents, and then just all of these platforms, and there's resources, there's all the information, but it's like it's really about connecting with other folks, like especially if you live in a place that's not LA or San Francisco or Seattle, where you can be surrounded by other queer families or trans pregnant people. Like it's just so meaningful to be around other folks that know exactly what it's like. And I think when you were talking about the challenges that so many folks in the queer community have with our families of origin, I think I don't know the statistics around it, but my sense is because of homophobia and transphobia and all of this stuff that's endemic in our culture, like queer folks in general probably have more strained relationships with our families of origin than not queer folks.
I feel like
part of why, right? Like that just makes sense.
100%. So yes.
That's part of why, like, chosen family is so essential to us. That's part of why, like, we need to create these community groups in our own ways with folks that like just really fucking get it. And so I'm really excited about all the people that we have coming together and then supporting each other through it. Like it's not just me answering these questions, it's people posting a comment about what to do because their perfect known donor has like low sperm motility, and what do they do? It's like, oh, I had this situation and here's what we did, or we ended up going with the donor from a bank, and just like commiserating with these unique experiences, it makes such a difference.
Yeah. I would also say like majorly advocating for yourself, asking the questions. You never know. I mean, we went to a doctor and then we waited for a different doctor who so far has been wonderful. Yeah. And like asking questions is so important. And I think, the internet is a scary, scary place, but it also can be a really wonderful place to meet people you otherwise wouldn't. So I love that you took the seed of the book and then grew it to an online platform. I don't know why I'm being so cheesy in this moment, but go on this journey with me.
I'm a home birth midwife.
It's true. It's because we're talking about pools and, mustard and Costco. Yeah. I really would like to thank you for honoring my love of stand freezers. So,
oh my gosh, freezers. I cannot tell you how often I talk about like deep freezers with my clients. Like it comes up regularly. So you're in the right place.
A deep freezer might be in my future. Marea, I am so happy that we met.
Me too.
I appreciate what you're doing. It means a lot, I know, to myself and to many others. And we'll make sure that all of the links for Pregnant Together are in the episode notes so people can find you and get the book and maybe harass you about water births, such as I have.
That's great. I'm around. My email is on the Pregnant Together website. I'll send you a special link so that listeners to this podcast can get their first month to the community free. Oh,
that's so nice of you.
Yeah, totally. Oh my gosh. I want all of us queer folks and solo parents who are growing our families just to find each other. And so I'm just super into it.
Me too.